So what happens if generative AI does take our jobs? My last video talked about how OpenAI's newest text-to-video tool called Sora could potentially eliminate tens of thousands of jobs in Hollywood. And a few of you guys had some things that you wanted to say. The current demos of OpenAI's Sora are bullshit. Shouldn't we be focusing on requalification efforts for the workers? Are we doomed? And one of you felt incredibly optimistic about AI and we're super excited about the future where humans become a conserved species and eventually move to outer space. Love Sunset? I don't know what drugs you're on, but can I have some? I'm kidding, but honestly, it was nice to see some positive vibes. But my favorite was from this user, who asked, wasn't the whole point of technological progress to try to eliminate as many jobs as possible? Why should we struggle to keep obsolete jobs alive? So today I want to talk about exactly that. What do careers in generative AI look like in the future? Are we all going to lose our jobs? More importantly, are we doomed? Let's find out. So in case you've been living under a rock or if you've just awoken from a significantly long coma like Kate Middleton, this is what you missed. The tech industry is still absolutely abuzz in excitement about generative AI. It's a mix of how everything is all going to be magical and wonderful or we're all gonna die. The biggest, most consistent fear that I'm seeing is generative AI is going to wipe out certain industries of jobs, most specifically white-collar jobs. The World Economic Forum projects that 85 million jobs could be lost within the next year, and Goldman Sachs has projected that up to 300 million jobs could be lost to generative AI by 2030. Now, to put these numbers into perspective so we don't forget, the planet has about 8 billion people and the United States has 340 million people. Jobs that appear to be at risk include, but are not limited to,
administrative tasks, accounting, paralegal work,
copywriting to an extent,
graphic design, video editing, animation, salespeople, research and analyst jobs, insurance underwriting, and anything particularly repetitive.
Now, this sounds terrifying, but it doesn't mean that we are losing all jobs, and it certainly doesn't mean that there are never going to be new jobs again, and projections show that we're going to see a significant increase in the amount of jobs in the future, even if we don't really know what they're going to be yet. Every revolution that humans have ever had has typically led to more jobs that are quote unquote better for people. You know, we're no longer all farmers or all working in a coal mine, though there's still plenty of people who do both of those things. And there are oodles of excellent jobs that could come out of this AI revolution, which include, but are not limited to,
AI specialists and developers, data scientists and analysts, creative professionals using AI tools, AI ethics officers, data privacy specialists, AI-assisted healthcare providers, and AI implementation strategists.
Plus, I believe that generative AI is going to be a phenomenal tool for entrepreneurs or anyone who's looking to start their own business. I don't know that there is an individual in the world who would actually want to run a billion-dollar organization and have all of that pressure on them, but sure, do we actually want that to happen? We're trying to teach people to delegate better, not continue to burn out themselves into the ground. Have we learned nothing from the pandemic? Take care of your mental health, folks. We're also likely to see dramatically better research. Think new medicines and vaccines, new tools to clean oceans, better research to create more sustainable materials, new technologies to remove excess carbon and methane from the atmosphere. Honestly, I think this is going to be a phenomenal time for anybody in science, especially research-based science, or at least any business that has to do with a lot of data. But to get back on track, I'm making this video today because of a commenter named VJ who asked,
Wasn't the whole point of technological progress to eventually kill off as many jobs as possible? Why should we struggle to keep obsolete jobs alive when there is no need of having them performed anymore? Shouldn't we rather focus on supporting requalification options for the workers? They then elaborated to say, isn't this like the Enclosure Acts in the UK during the Industrial Revolution?
Which I had never heard of. So I went to do some research. I'm just kidding. I didn't read all of these. I just watched YouTube videos and Googled.
See, back in medieval times in the UK, landowners allowed peasants to farm and live on their lands in exchange for most of the profits. However, starting in the 16th century, landowners discovered that they could make more money by having more motivated farmers cultivating larger sections of land than a lot of peasants who may or may not be good at farming. So these landowners started reaching out to the crown to claim the land that they owned in order to kick the peasants out.
These peasants ended up going to big industrialized cities or leaving to go to a variety of colonies, including the United States. There were over 5,000 of these Enclosure Acts in the UK over the next 300 years. These acts created the urban poor in big cities across Great Britain, and the ripple effects are still felt with us today. And what's fascinating to me personally, since I didn't know about this history, because a lot of the history that I know about the Industrial Revolution is from an American perspective. Primarily what I was taught in schools was that there were too many people in Europe and not enough land to farm in Europe, and I was told that that was the reason why so many immigrants left Europe to go and move to the US. So from an American perspective, looking back, if you didn't want to participate in the Industrial Revolution, you could simply go west and, follow your cottagecore Little House on the Prairie dreams, or cowboy yourself into blazing saddles. The reality is that the Europeans who tried to stay on their farms were kicked off of them and forced to live in these heavily industrial cities that Jane Austen's characters tried to avoid for being too incredibly unsanitary and gross. Enclosure Acts in the UK started in the 16th century and continued into the 19th century. And they were very regional and patchy. So yes, farmers from entire villages who lived there for a long time would be kicked out all at once and have everything changed overnight, but that wasn't the case. It wasn't like that all happened within 5 years. It happened over a few hundred years. And while historically this is astronomically fast, we have now gone from Spaghetti Will Smith to guy floating in cloud in a year.
But getting back to the question, why should we try to keep obsolete jobs instead of training people for new future jobs? I do think we're going to need to upskill many people into new roles, but the reason that I'm hesitating is that I am concerned about how quickly we can educate people while also navigating a cost of living crisis. Education these days is incredibly expensive. Job hunting in high-paying jobs is very competitive, and I'm concerned that massive layoffs could exacerbate the homelessness crisis we're seeing in many big cities across the US. All of these factors are especially prevalent in Hollywood and creative fields. The jobs are highly competitive and desirable, but the pay is very low and the work is typically in the most expensive cities in the world. These individuals in particular, I believe, are at very high risk of homelessness if mass layoffs due to generative AI occur. While the situation in creative industries may be unique, I expect to see many other industries struggling with very similar themes.
And part of the reason I say this is because unlike the Industrial Revolution, this AI revolution does not yet appear to have a lot of jobs that can be done by people who don't have these skills. When the Industrial Revolution came about, many people were able to get jobs because there were tons and tons of entry-level, no-skill jobs. Decisions that are made by these companies are not, given down to us by gods or whatever. Any of these decisions made by large corporations are made by people, and it's not like they're obligated to either not innovate or fire people. We don't need mass layoffs. That's not to say they're not going to happen, but we don't need them. It doesn't have to be one or the other. We can and should try multiple different strategies. And that leads me to my biggest concern when it comes to AI stealing our jobs. My biggest concern when it comes to generative AI stealing our jobs is primarily speed related. How fast is this going to happen? But one of my bigger questions that I'm still really unsure of is how much is the future actually going to change? Do you guys like the sunglasses? We made the spooky town because I had to leave to go play in a hockey game. Techies, especially in Silicon Valley, tend to think that things are going to happen substantially sooner than they typically do. That said, Fortune 500 companies always think that things are going to take 3 times longer than they actually are, and inevitably are always behind. Don't even get me started about the government.
Tic-tac-toe, a winner.
And unfortunately, what we still don't know right now is how fast are things going to change? Because typically in these types of situations, the tech is always ready before the people are. But regardless, it's still going to be faster than we would like, and it's likely going to be ugly, unless we do something about it. However, there is another time period that I haven't mentioned yet. 2 summers ago, I went to see a fascinating play at the Guthrie Theater here in Minneapolis.
The show was called Sweat by Lynn Nottage, and it showed the transformation of a classic industrial stronghold, Reading, Pennsylvania, during deindustrialization from 2000 to 2001. The play tells the story of how the factory leaving Reading, Pennsylvania, destroyed the lives of the people that lived there within a single year.
And watching Sweat at the Guthrie just 2 years ago felt scarily relevant for a wide variety of reasons. In the play, people who had been lifelong friends turned on one another. Their politics became much more extreme. People who lived in the town went from being a pretty classic middle-class American experience to becoming incredibly impoverished. And those who adapted or left did well or well enough, while those who stayed suffered the consequences. Now, I don't say this to scare people, though at this point I probably have done exactly that, but I do believe that we are at a turning point that we cannot ignore. And that brings me to my last topic. What is strangest to me in this situation is that AI has come for the arts suddenly and early. And in addition, I'm also just very perplexed by the complete indifference of those in business and in tech. Now, I'm an oddball. I'm somebody with a deep background in the arts, and also someone who now has 7 years of experience working in tech startups and venture capital. And now I make YouTube videos. It's like I was born to have this conversation. However, from my perspective, the point of the arts is to reveal what it means to be human and to identify problems that our society has created. Sometimes this is fun, like in Legally Blonde or Barbie, where they're trying to reveal the biases against women. And sometimes it's not fun, like in Christopher Nolan's newest Oscar award-winning Oppenheimer, or in Lynn Nottage's play, Sweat. But watching Sweat 2 years ago on the eve of generative AI becoming the hottest thing in tech, it was, and it still is, incredibly eerie to me. It is so easy to forget or ignore the people in pain who have been left behind. And when you stop and think about it, this is what evolution is all about, right? Out with the old, in with the new, and better and more improved. And I do agree that we want to train people for this new economy. We don't want to leave millions of people behind. What I'm concerned that people in tech and business don't seem to understand is people who work in the arts don't work in the arts because it's easy. They work in it because they believe in it, they love it, they have a passion for it, and they have a real sense of purpose. For most of the people who are in these jobs, these are their dream jobs, but they worked really hard to beat really competitive landscapes to be able to get and achieve, which to me feels fundamentally different from pivoting out of farming or pivoting out of everyone working in factories. And in a vaguely horrible way, I kind of think it's a good thing that generative AI is targeting the arts in this way right now. Because who better to identify simultaneously the amazing and horrible possibilities of AI than artists whose job it is to hold a mirror up to society? At the end of the day, I leave this conversation conflicted. Do we want to reach this new future at our current speed? Or are there ways to buy ourselves time and create a game plan to make sure that we're not leaving millions and millions of people behind? And whether or not you agree with my thoughts, as jumbled as they are, now is the time to share them. Let's not be complacent. Let's make sure that we design this future for the better. Moving fast and breaking things is a choice. And I believe we also have the power to move fast and fix things. Thank you so much for watching, and also, holy cow, over 1,000 of you guys watched my last video? I'm frankly baffled. I did not expect that. Like, who are all of you humans? 98% of you were not my subscribers. Anyways, if you liked that video or this video or both, please make sure to subscribe and like this video and the other video because it helps appease the algorithm gods. And also let me know what your thoughts on AI taking our jobs are below. In some ways, I feel like this video was a bit chaotic because I didn't fully define exactly what this future is going to look like, but I do think that looking to history to talk about previous revolutions is very useful in times like this, especially if we want to move forward in a very careful way that causes the least amount of harm in the world. Yes, please share your comments also, because this video today wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for VJ's comments last week. And I'm still trying to figure out what video topics we want to tackle in the next couple of weeks. Thinking about this potential TikTok ban? Interested? Let me know. Thanks again. I'll see you next Friday. Bye. So I went to do some research. Or if you've been in a significantly long coma like Kittle Middleton.